I remember I was cater waitering at a job, and my agent Lauren calls me and she says, "Oh, you're going to be in West Side Story," and I had to excuse myself to go to the bathroom in the middle of this catering job, and I was like, "What?" Like, it was. I mean, it was amazing. It's my one of my favorite musicals, my favorite movies. I grew up watching that. Like I said, my sister was a dancer, and being Puerto Rican, it just means so much. You know, it was a wonderful experience. I think probably the most important motto that I tell myself is you can't go forward while looking left and right. And by that I mean, you know, you can't move forward with your best self while comparing yourself to everybody around you. You know, what you bring to the table is completely different from the next person and the next person. Your journey is not going to happen the way that this person or this person's is going to happen. So I think accepting that, and even though it's so hard to accept that, because I still struggle with that every day, you know, this career, nothing's promised. You don't know what next month is going to look like. You don't know what next year is going to look like. But I think remembering why you started and remembering why you love it is going to keep the fuel burning.
Does that, and that anchors you in like yourself?
Well, what I was saying about like comparing yourself to other people, I think just knowing that what you're going to be bringing into the room, the best that you can do is bring yourself and the best that you got that day. And that's all you can do, because you don't know. I mean, you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, or, you know, or if you don't get a role, it's not because you weren't good or you weren't amazingly talented. It's just because they went a different direction. And that's usually what you hear when you're auditioning in the real world, and you get the news that you didn't get whatever role, and you ask why. Majority of the time it's like they thought you did a great job, but they're just going in a different direction. And that is a hard pill to swallow. It's kind of like, all right, well, I want to know, how can I book it the next time, you know? But there's no saying, and most of the time it's, you're wonderful and everybody's amazingly talented in their own way, but for whatever reason, the image that they saw for this role was somebody else, you know? So being authentic to yourself and bringing your best work into the room is going to get you farther than anything.
It took me a while to learn that for myself too, because I started as an actor, I started as a singer, actor, and then somewhere along the way, I started getting more involved behind the scenes in production as a writer, as an assistant director, stage manager, lots of different roles. And being on that side of the table taught me that, what you just said, it's like, it really is nothing personal. It's not like, and this can absolutely be coming from like that ego of like, oh, well, everything's about me. I'm like, no, everything is not about you. The director has a vision, and their team is helping them to complete that vision. And for this vision, you're not the piece of this puzzle, but you're the piece of the puzzle for something else. You know?
Absolutely.
I really love that. So what is next for you? I know that there's something in store coming out later this month.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
Oh, absolutely. It's called Holiday Harmony. It's a romantic drama that's coming out on HBO Max on November 24th. I'm very excited about it. Yeah, it was really wonderful, and I get to sing in it as well. It's full of the most amazing cast. We had such a great time making the film, and there's something in it for everybody. I think a lot of people will enjoy it, so I'm really excited.
I can't wait to watch it. I have it like saved in my calendar. I'm like, this comes out. Watch it.
Thank you.
Borrowing my boyfriend's password. Watch it.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. One of the things that I want to demystify for our students is the process. Like, I would like to continue it and go a little bit deeper of like the behind the scenes. Like, there's pre-production, there's production, and then there's screening. when did you guys start shooting this thing, if you're allowed to share, that is?
Yeah. Um, well, I think my first audition, my audition started in January of this past year. And
Mm-hmm.
then we started filming April.
Mm-hmm.
And this was kind of a fast and furious shoot. We shot it pretty, I would say, quickly. We ended the first week of May. So yeah, April to pretty much a month. And now it's coming out in November. But I think it's different for different platforms or for different movies because, you know, for example, with West Side Story, we filmed that back in 2019. And when, of course, the pandemic and everything that halted it, and that came out, you know,
Yeah.
2022 or 2021. I'm sorry.
Bless you.
But yeah, but I think it's different for every platform because sometimes you film something 3-4 years ago, you hear about that happening, and you don't see it until 3-4 years later, which is why.
Yeah.
And that might be for various reasons, but a lot of the time maybe it's for editing purposes and for ADR, which is going back into the studio to re-record lines that maybe got lost during filming, or just doing different pickup for lines that they need for transitions. You know,
Right.
it could be for so many reasons behind the scenes.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is people need to be patient.
It's so hard though. It's so hard for everyone, for people waiting to watch it, for people in the movie, for people behind the scenes. Everybody wants to see what you made, you know, but there's so much work that goes behind making these things happen.
Yeah. What do you do in between gigs? You know, like you booked this one thing, you did this show, or you did this movie. What's the in between? I feel like for myself, when I was younger, um, I didn't really get a clear picture of the day to day. Like, what does the day to day look like? And it looks like different for everybody. I know that now. But
Right.
like, what's the place to start? Where did it start for you?
Hmm. When out of college and I was working professionally, regionally, doing regional theater, I was I mean, my mom wasn't kicking me out, and I was fortunate enough to live in New York. So
Mm-hmm.
I, you know, didn't have to pay rent. I didn't have to pay for certain things. I lived at home, and that was a huge blessing, you know.
Yep.
So already that might look different for someone who is coming out of town, who needs
Mm-hmm.
to pay for their rent and for everything, and has to maybe get a full-time job, or
Mm-hmm.
has to maybe get a job that works overnight, you know, to be able to
Mm-hmm.
audition in the mornings, you know. So it might look
Mm-hmm.
different, but for me, I knew I needed money, just to pay for example, acting classes, to get headshots printed, to pay for just things that I wanted to pay for myself. I started babysitting because it was the most flexible job. I was able to find a family who was flexible enough to work around my schedule if I had to call out to go and do an audition or something, or to go and shoot something.
Mm-hmm.
So that was I was very grateful for that. But I babysat for a long time. I babysat all through West Side Story. I babysat up until I did the HBO Max film. And now that I'm back, I'm you know, another thing was, what else could I do to use my creativity, for a means to make money. And I found out that that was modeling for me. And so I started modeling about 5 years ago, and I was able to do so many different types of shoots, commercial, fashion, whatever it might, beauty, whatever it might be, and be able to make an income and do something that at first started as what's a way I can make money, turned into I really enjoy this. And I
Mm-hmm.
loved seeing how the photographer worked, and I loved seeing how people set up the lights, and I loved talking to the makeup artists, and to the hairstylists, and to the fashion designers of the shoot that day. And not to mention, I met so many cool artists on those sets. So for me, I was like, what can I do that I'm going to really enjoy and feel creative that will also make me some money? And it ended up being modeling, and that's something that
Mm-hmm.
I'm still doing, that I love to this day. I went to a casting today. I still do it very actively. And it truly is because I do love it and I enjoy it, and it makes me feel creative. But I think it could look different for everyone. You know, a lot of people, like I was talking about cater waitering, a lot of people end up doing kind of gig work where it doesn't feel like it's a 9 to 5 job and there is that flexibility. but you're able to pick up a couple shifts, catering, an event, a
Mm-hmm.
wedding, everything like that. So I think it does look different for everybody, but you have to find what you're going to be able to sustain. You know, I always say find a part-time job you love, that you can be okay with going to, because
Yeah.
unfortunately, like, there is some times that are a little slow or that are a little
Yeah.
down, and find something that you enjoy that will give you some money in your pocket, that you can show up to. You know.
I completely agree. That's actually my happy situation.
Yeah.
But it took a while to get
Yeah.
there. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
not like, oh, I want this, and then, no, it
Right.
takes a minute. I went through almost every stereotype of the actor part-time job. I did it.
Yeah.
I did
I
it
did it all.
for all of college and some after college. It's
Yeah.
maybe 2 years after college. I I had literally just gone to Statement Arts, their summer program, just to visit, just to say hi.
Uh-huh.
And then the project director at the time, she was like, to hire, she was like, there may be a job opening. Like, what do you want to do? What are your skills? And I was
Yeah.
like, well, she kind of already knew my skills. She was like, I know that you're organized, but like, what do you want to be doing?
Right.
And then a assistant job opened up, and I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this. So
Perfect.
that summer, I went from, it's gonna sound crazy, I went from working at the public theater as an usher
Okay.
at two different coffee shops as barista
At the same
to
time, you did.
all three, yes,
Okay.
all three.
Yeah.
Had a bunch of other stuff in between
Yeah.
to working from home, even pre-pandemic. I was like,
Mm-hmm. What did you
what?
do from home?
Well, it was a lot of communication stuff because
Okay.
after the summer program, a lot of it, like, yes, she and I would meet up in person at our office then, but it kind of like worked out beautifully. And I'm like, the universe sometimes has this like cool, freaky way of like putting things in your
Oh yeah.
direction. It's like, this is the time. It's like, yes, you've paid your dues. Now this is it for you.
Right.
So I've just been blessed, like to your point about having a part-time job that you feel like you're actually giving and getting good energy from.
Right.
It's so important. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you have to like it in order to continue going, to motivate you. And so like this org, like, I grew up through it, and I always feel inspired by the team. I feel like fully supported.
Yeah.
But I I think I always tell the students, being very specific about what you want, and it takes time too, because you may not always know what you want in the moment. It takes a lot
Mm-hmm.
of self-reflection, awareness, but like once you get there, it's so worth it,
Oh gosh, it's so worth it. Yeah.
you know?
Yes. It and it, you know, just saying that things are worth it. Like, sometimes you know, you want something so badly in the moment. Let's say 3 years ago, you really thought that you wanted this thing, and it wasn't happening at that moment. And then it happens for you 2, 3 years later, and it feels so good. But at the same time, you're like, huh, was I ready for that thing 3 years ago?
Yes.
Was
Uh-huh.
I ready for that? Would I have been able to do that and feel confident and feel safe and feel good doing this? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. But
Mm-hmm.
things do work out usually when they're supposed to, and I think it's trusting in that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how do you practice discipline in your art?
Ooh, like with preparing for auditions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, hmm,
Like
I
flexing the muscle.
Yeah, flexing the muscle. I think going to school for this really did um, establish a work ethic for
Mm-hmm.
me, but also, like I was saying, my mother, who was extremely supportive in what I was doing starting from a young age. She was making sure I was practicing my songs for vocal lessons every Friday, every week in the car. She was making sure that
Mm-hmm.
I was not backing out of any kind of auditions that we were getting. She was like, "Oh no, you signed up for this, you're going." So I think from a young age, I had that within me. But then going to school, I mean, talk about not really, not that I didn't think about what was in store in this profession, but going to school, it's like being around other wonderfully talented people, inspired me, but also scared the heck out of me. And then also these classes that we were in, getting the amount of work that we were getting, having to be memorized in a couple of days for different monologues or for different songs, and auditioning. We pretty much had like real life auditions in college. I think all of that really prepared me for when I graduated, going into the professional world. It didn't feel so new and fresh, which was nice for me. But I think I carry that with me up until now. I always want to be super prepared for every audition, and I think that means knowing your lines front to back and running it with other people. Darius, my boyfriend, and I, we're constantly doing auditions, and that's what I think. That's what I think flexing the muscle comes from, is that you're going to get to a point where it's like you're getting a lot of auditions and you got to kind of spit these out with very little time, and there's not much time to always think about everything. So, flexing those muscles comes in handy. But also, let's say you're someone who's just starting out and you're not getting a lot of professional auditions or something. I think it's important to always be in class. I think going to acting class, and or if you can't do that, practicing monologues at home, putting it on camera, watching it back, practicing with a group of friends, maybe reading a script with a group of friends. It could be a play or a TV or a film script you find online. Just always practicing and flexing those muscles. But to this day, I was talking to my mother this morning. I was like, I think I want to get back into acting class. I love going to acting class. I go to a wonderful studio in the city, the Freeman Studio, and it is such a blast to be there. It's such a blast to be working on new plays that I haven't before. It's such a blast to be putting them on your feet with other actors, other friends. So I think the more that you can just be doing it. I know that sounds funny, but the more that you can just be doing it, the better you feel about it, But, I think the nerves are never going to go away, though, because I still get extremely nervous going into certain auditions. It's like no matter how prepared you feel, I'm still going in there trying to get my hands from stop shaking sometimes, so it happens, but I think that just means you care, I think just doing it, and then not even, it doesn't have to be professionally, or it doesn't have to be an audition, but just doing it.
I agree. You mentioned college. I don't know if you mentioned the name. I wanted to talk a little about how did you decide which college to go to?
Okay, I went to Montclair State University in Montclair, New Jersey. It's kind of a funny story. I had, I had a wonderful college counselor in high school who kind of mapped out different performing arts programs everywhere for me to look at. And then, it had things, certain colleges I couldn't end up going to for financial reasons or whatever it was. And then my singing teacher, my first one, who I was telling you about, Miss Jenkins, she ended up saying, hey, I heard about this great program in New Jersey. You should check it out. I hear they're wonderful. And I remember calling to see about the auditions, because you have to audition for these programs. They didn't have any more spots open for auditions, but because I called and a few other students called, they opened one last one back up. So I remember really, really late in the game, I ended up auditioning, and they told me I had gotten a spot in the room that day, because it was so last minute that they were like, wow, do you want to come to the school? So that's what ended up happening. And it just worked out. I mean, there was certain reasons financially I couldn't go to other schools, but it all worked out for the best, because it was the best program for me to go to. I had the best college experience. So I had the best time.
How did you choose your audition material? Because I know some of our students, they're currently in the process of doing the whole pre-screening and then preparing for auditions very, very soon, coming up very soon. Talk a little bit about what that was like for you.
So for me, I think all the schools had a requirement of, I think it was like one song had to be a golden age ballad, and then another one had to be like a contemporary up tempo or something like that. And I didn't have like a wide variety of repertoire at the time, and so I remember just singing what I knew and what felt like me, which was Breathe from In the Heights And
Love it.
then and then I Feel Pretty from West Side Story. To me, it made sense. I knew those songs. I was like, this feels like me. I'm going to sing it. And I believe I sang that for every audition I went to. So that was nice because most of the schools had the same guidelines, and so you're able to kind of just copy and paste,
Perfect.
you know. But
Mm-hmm.
there was also, I think we also had to do a monologue. I could not tell you what monologue I chose. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Oh, I do not remember what monologue I chose, but we did have to do a monologue that I think was under a minute or something.
Yeah.
But what I would say now is like, you know, one thing that I feel like I struggled with in college that I feel like a lot of my peers did too was that we all were trying to find the most obscure songs to sing, songs that nobody else would be singing because we didn't want to sing what other people were singing. We wanted to
Yeah.
be different, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up just being like not the best choices that we could pick. And now I'm kind of just thinking back, you need to just sing what feels like you and what showcases you the best way, whether that be your vocal ability, your acting ability, just your overall vibe in the room. What's gonna make you feel great and gonna exude, you know, happiness to be there and excitedness to be there, and it feels most authentically yourself. And so now I'm just like, oh no, don't try and find the most obscure song. Who cares if the person in front of you is singing the same song? That's happened to me plenty of times. Oh well, because they're gonna sing it different than you, and that's
Mm-hmm.
that. You know?
Yeah.
I wish I knew that then, because we were breaking our backs to try and find these obscure songs. We were like
Yeah.
trying to find the most interesting songs to sing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, ultimately, yes, the difference will be you. When you walk into a room, you're a different person, a different vibe altogether, and you can just
That's
put your own
it.
spin on it.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
I overthought it all the time too. And I still catch myself overthinking it whenever
Yeah.
I go into auditions.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, do you have any advice
Mhm.
for community? Like how you, for me, I feel like if you talked about your mom and you talked a little bit about Darius, um, how are they like your support system? And what do you recommend to someone who may feel alone, who may feel like there's no one there by my
Oh,
side, you know, pushing me like your mom did? What would you
oh
say
my
to them?
gosh. Yeah, that's um I think I would say, you know, right now is temporary and it's going to get better. And of course, it is so important to surround yourself with people who are going to lift you up. Um, but also, that might not mean like, you know, you don't have to have a group of 20 friends or a group of 20 people who feel like are your best friends. If you have four, if you have three, if you have two, lean on those people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but also, I think like even what we were talking about, immersing yourself in a community that um, that you feel that you feel like you have similarities, like whether it be like you working at with statement, or you working if you going to an acting class, or you
Mm-hmm.
going to whatever class it may be. It doesn't even have to be acting. If you're going to a Pilates class or something, and you're you know, I think it's important to go and meet new people, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things can spark from that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think I know a lot of people who have been through that and who have been feeling alone, and maybe they start a new job and they meet people that they love and that they can connect to, or they start a new activity, pottery, painting, something in the park, that they meet new people who are going through the same thing. So I think it's, if you feel alone, know that you're not alone, because a lot of people are going through the same thing.
Mm. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Let me take a quick look at our comments. As someone says, King CJX says, you have to
CJ.
prepare, you have to prepare yourself for those moments that you want. Trust the process. Very, very true.
100%.
Very true. I'm such a perfectionist. I'm like, I have to get every little detail right. And
Right.
I'm like, at the end of the day, like, just throw the rule book away. It's fine. You come
If there
prepared
are no
enough.
rules, there's none. Like I just there are none. Like that's what it is. It's just, just do what feels instinctual to you and that you
Hmm.
believe is authentic to yourself, and that's the best that you could do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, how do you keep yourself inspired and motivated just in general? Doesn't have to be directly correlated to art or whatever, just like maybe it just inspires you, as in you and Elise.
Wow. Gosh, so much. You know, I love watching movies. I love watching some of my favorite actresses in movies. I get extremely inspired by watching performances that I love, and also the same way every time I go to see a play or a musical, and I end up really loving it. I feel like I feel vibrated every time I leave the theater. I feel like, oh wow, that was amazing. They just took me somewhere else. I love the story.
Mhm.
Everybody truly was so into their character. It does inspire me as an actor. Seeing other actors do their thing, and just be 100% into it and dropped
Mhm.
into it really does inspire me. But also my friends. I'm inspired by
Mhm.
my friends constantly. My boyfriend, just the people I love doing the things that they love, doing whatever. It doesn't have to be acting at all, but just somebody who got promoted at their day job. I'm like, oh my God, yes. Or somebody who is taking a step further to check into their just to their self-care, and I know that they've been struggling with that, and they're kind of taking the next step to do what they need to do. I love that. I just think seeing my friends do their thing as well is super inspiring.
Mm.
Hmm.
I like that. Same
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
I'm constantly, someone actually told me last night, they were like, you're always talking about, or you're always like promoting all of these great people and like their businesses or like their talents. And I'm like, I don't even realize that I'm doing this. I'm just telling you what I like. I just really like this one thing, and I feel like everybody should know about it.
Right. Yes.
Like
Yeah.
I'm
It's a
that
sense
type
of
of person.
pride.
I'm
You
like
feel good
very,
about
once I
it.
get very passionate about something, a movie, a show, a service, anything, I
Anything.
cannot stop talking about it. And like everybody says it all the time. It's like, damn, you should just be like their PR.
You should be their PR person. You're like, everybody
Yeah.
look at this. But it's true, because then it's like you start to feel like proud about something and you want to share it with everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
absolutely. All
Hmm.
right, someone here asks, what's your audition process?
Oh gosh. I don't even know if I have a solid one. I'm going to be completely honest.
Hmm.
Because, like I said, sometimes you don't have time to really sit there and work on something as much as you would like to.
Hmm.
Sometimes the turnaround time is 24 hours.
Hmm.
So I would love to say that this is what I do and I write this down and I study this. My audition process is, if there's a script, I'm going to read the whole script, and
Hmm.
I'm gonna mark whatever I think is crucial to my character, and then I'm gonna make sure I know those lines front to back. And that is honestly it. I just think it's being prepared and then knowing what the story is, knowing what the stakes
Hmm.
are, knowing where your character is going and where they're coming from. I
But what you
think.
mentioned earlier about flexing the muscle,
Mhm.
ultimately, that's you preparing way
Yeah,
in advance
it's
for the
true.
last minute call.
That is true. No, yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. It's true, because you've done all that work, and the work never stops, but you've done all that work, and now you feel ready to go, that you can kind of just dive in and get what you need to get done in a matter of 24 hours if need be.
Hmm.
But that's why, yeah, it is important to go to flex those muscles and just practice doing that. Maybe even giving
Hmm.
yourself like a time frame to memorize something and put it on camera yourself, or performing it in
Hmm.
front of a friend, studying it with a friend. Just,
Hmm.
because it comes a time where you're like, okay, I have 12 hours, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, but I think that's what it is. It's knowing the character, knowing the script, knowing the story, and just making sure that the lines that are coming out of my mouth feel like my words, feel comfortable to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is 7:40, and I want to thank you for your time, for your generosity, for your words of wisdom. Do you have any last words to share with our audience or students?
Oh gosh. Well, thank you for having me. This was so much fun. For your students, I think just if you love it, keep doing it. And when the times get hard, remember why you started and remember why you love it. That's what I'll say.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And everybody, thank you for watching. Annelise has her movie titled
Holiday Harmony, comes out HBO Max on November 24th.
November 24th. Save the date, everybody.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
So much.
Have a wonderful evening. Thank you all.
You too. Bye.
Bye.